Week 2 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I look to start this week. The first guy, Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dallas Goedert in Week 1, not the greatest of ball games, but still a decent PPR performance. 3 catches, 60 yards on 4 targets. But we saw A.J. Brown get most of the receptions and most of the receiving yards in that ball game in Week 1, over 150 yards. But Week 2 here, this is going to be a shootout, I believe, on Monday Night Football between the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dallas Goedert, I think he's going to make a few plays in this one. He's been better at home throughout his career as Goedert than he has on the road. And this is a home game for Philly. Monday Night Football, home opener for this Eagle team. They're trying to go to 2-0 on the season. You know, the Vikings, they've been a good team over the last few seasons offensively. And now with the new head coach and the new offensive system, I just feel like this ball game, a lot of big guys are going to have good games in this one. I could see Brown another good game. Devonta Smith could possibly bounce back. Dallas Goedert. And then on the other side, I think Justin Jefferson again will have a monster ball game. Adam Thielen, I think, will pick things up, and Dalvin Cook again. And I think it's an all-around good fantasy game for a lot of guys. And Dallas Goedert this week, I think, reaches double digits at the tight end position. The next tight end's Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Freiermuth, he had a decent Week 1 here. 12.5 fantasy points in PPR leagues. 5 catches, 75 yards. But the number that stands out to me is the 10 targets. So Mitchell Trubisky trusts his tight end. Week 2 here, it's a decent matchup versus the New England Patriots, even though we saw Mike Gesicki do nothing in that ball game for the Patriots at the tight end position. But like I said, Trubisky trusts Pat Freiermuth as a check down guy, blanket guy. And throughout Trubisky's career, he's always targeting the tight end. I know he's got good receivers in Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson, but Trubisky, he's more of that middle of the field type of thrower, and those things will open up for those other guys as well. But Freiermuth, he's going to get the targets, 10 in the first game. This game, at least 8 or 10 targets, and I think he could get at least 40 yards and find the end zone. And he's a tight end I would start this week. The next guy, Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals. So Zach Ertz, it was a weird Week 1 ball game for him. The first half of the game, he didn't have any fantasy points, and then the second half, in a lot of garbage time and a lot of catch-up time where they were trailing big to the Kansas City Chiefs, was this Cardinal team. He got all his fantasy points. Only 2 catches, 14 yards, but a touchdown and a 2-point conversion was enough for Zach Ertz to have 11.4 fantasy points in PPR leagues. But right here in Week 2 with the Vegas Raiders, a team that are vulnerable to the tight end, and we saw it in Week 1 with Gerald Everett scoring a touchdown. I think Zach Ertz could possibly find the end zone once again in this one, and this is going to be a shootout ball game. Another indoor game here for Zach Ertz and the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, they don't want to fall 0-2, and the Raiders don't want to either. So I think a lot of passing we're going to see in this game. And I think Ertz is going to put up more than the 14 yards he had coming into that game. And also, he wasn't 100% healthy as well with the calf injury. So maybe the calf held him back. Maybe the calf is still an issue. We'll see going into the practice reports here today. With Zach Ertz, I still think he's a tight end that could do some work and have a good ball game. So I have him as a start this week. The next tight end is Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Chargers. So with Keenan Allen most likely not playing in Thursday night's ball game, more targets could go Gerald Everett's way, even though Palmer and DeAndre Carter could get that target share as well. So in Week 1, Gerald Everett, a good ball game. Not many targets, 4 targets, but 3 catches, 54 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And he's a tight end I've recommended a lot in the preseason, and a guy I recommended to hit on the waiver wire. So if you didn't see any of those waiver wire videos, go check them out. It's some good stuff, and if some of those guys are still on your wire as the waiver period ended this morning here, go out there and maybe get them. But anyway, Gerald Everett's got a good matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs gave up a touchdown, like I mentioned, to Zach Ertz in Week 1. And this is going to be a classic shootout in the AFC West, I believe. Thursday Night Football, quick turnaround for both teams. Both defenses, not the greatest of defenses, even though I love the pass rush with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa over there for the Los Angeles Chargers, and Derwin James on the back end of the secondary. But right here, Gerald Everett is going to get more targets with Keenan Allen out, most likely in this ball game. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if he could find the end zone once again in this one is Everett. And the 5th and final tight end I look to start this week's Dawson Knox of the Buffalo Bills. So Week 1 was a bad ball game for Knox, no doubt about it. 1 catch for 5 yards, but Week 2 here versus the Tennessee Titans, I think he gets things going, and he has a good ball game here. Obviously, week in and week out, it's going to be different guys on this Buffalo team. Besides Gabriel Davis and Diggs, it's going to be inconsistent of who's going to catch what and who's going to put up fantasy numbers, in my opinion. But right here, Dawson Knox is a good tight end. Last season was his breakout year. Josh Allen trusts him, and I think in this one they're going to go to him way more than they did, obviously, in week 1. And obviously Bobby Wagner, still a good coverage linebacker as well, was on Knox most of this ball game. So right here in week 2 versus the Tennessee Titans, Knox has a better game, no doubt about it. And I think he's a tight end that could have a 10 to 12 point fantasy game and a tight end to start this week. So that's a few tight ends I would start here for week 2 of the fantasy football season.